There we go. Now we're live. And ever since the upgrade, it takes a lot longer for it to kind of switch over to being live. Very weird. All right, let's retweet this. High CPU usage detected. Ugh, computer. Come on, man. Are you really high? Yeah, 91%.
Damn.
That would be pretty high. What are VH multi-writer extension? Let's Google that. Let's Google me figuring out what's wrong with my computer.
Yeah. Welcome to IT Cast.
Where we solve what's wrong with Boston's computer.
Biggest secret to any technical job is you start out by Googling the problem.
Yep. Hit Stack Overflow. Know your sources.
Yeah. I do the same crap at my job.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know what this device is. Let's see if, oh good, there's a Tom's Hardware
Yeah, exactly.
chat forum over the NEC on it.
Oh, thank God there's a wiki page for it. Whew.
It may not be right, but it'll at least give you a starting point.
Yeah. Oh, I guess it's something for XSplit. What version am I on? About. Version 2.7 point something something something. Am I on the latest version? 2.1? No, not even close. Really, XSplit, you're supposed to let me know when there are updates. Oh my God, there's a new version. You bastards. Well, I know what I'm going to do after this. Alrighty. Do we have anybody in here? Hi, viewers. Alright, are you ready to kick this thing off?
Sure.
Alright, we have 2 emails. Do we have any tweets? Yes. We have 1? Interesting. That's a good question. Okay, you ready to kick this thing off?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me, as always, is Musum.
Hello.
No Mina this month. We can't get a hold of her, so she probably has something going on. Otherwise, that is probably more important. So we're gonna let her take care of that and focus on that. Stuff comes up, emergencies happen. No real, and take a month off. Why not? Take a little break. I took a break last week because I was coughing my head off. So everybody deserves a little break.
All right. Yeah, it's gonna happen sometimes.
Yep. It's like PTO. You're just gonna take a day off. All right, let's get into it. Musum, what RPGs have you been enjoying hopefully enjoying this past month?
So I played a lot.
Oh, good, because I don't have much.
Some of these games I honestly don't remember what I did in them, but I'll start out with the one I've been wanting to talk about the most, and that's I played through all the Dragon Age Inquisition DLC.
Oh.
So I'll just go in sequential order from release because I did everything in Jaws of Hakan and The Descent, and well, I guess I want to say I did everything in Trespasser because it's a very linear story, but I don't actually remember if I've gone back and looked to see if there's something extra. So Jaws of Hakan is the first one, and when you said before, Boston, that it is just another area for you to explore, it did not occur to me that is literally all that DLC was going to be.
It pops you in a new area and looks, a jungle, and it's like you just do more Dragon Age. It's like, oh.
It's like, well, these Avar sound really interesting. Too bad you guys don't do any meaningful storytelling with them.
Yeah.
The previous Inquisitor storyline was kind of interesting, but you're talking about this is a 12-hour DLC, and you're talking about 5 to 15 minutes of that in it.
Oh, jeez.
And interesting thing is after you beat it, or after I beat it, I went and logged on to Dragon Age Keep, and there are two decision options for
Oh no.
Jaws of Hakan, and one of them is, did you beat the story thing in it? You know
Okay.
that 50, what ultimately amounts to 15 minutes of story,
Oh
but
jeez.
is really a series of 8 hours of fetch quests to get you to that 15 minutes of story.
Right.
And then the other question was, did you beat the dragon in the area? So
Ah, okay.
uh, they are. You can literally skip this DLC. There is no reason to play it.
I played it I think a couple weeks ago because I was thinking about it and I think I saw you playing it either on Twitter or somewhere. And I was just like, okay, I have to just sit down and I just have to power through Jaws of Hakan. And I got through some more stuff and I got to this area where um it seems you get in this area and two people are racing up a cliffside and somebody is literally spouting sentences of lore and all these terms and all this stuff, and I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. Dragon Age Inquisition, I love you. I can't do this, so I decided to start Trespasser, and within 5 minutes, I was sort of like, I can't do this either.
Oh man. Wow. I
Yeah,
guess you did play through the game twice, which I did not do.
yeah, and I feel like I almost did too much. I played too much of Inquisition.
Yeah, I could see. I mean the game it's like doing chores. Like you want the story, you want the characters, but you got to walk over here and grab this thing first and then walk over there and grab this other thing, and it's a lot of, it's kind of a mindless, but well, maybe not mindless. They obviously put a lot of effort into the game. I just don't think it's as tightly woven as an open world experience as, like a Skyrim or something.
Yeah, or more recently Witcher 3, where it I think it outdid a lot of what Dragon Age Inquisition tried to do by giving you less areas overall, but populating them with more interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the other problem I had is obviously I love Dragon Age Inquisition because I played two 100-hour playthroughs of it. Um, but my other problem is trying to come back to this DLC. I'm like level 22 or something like that on my not hard mode playthrough. And jumping into this DLC, most of the enemies I'm running into are like 22 or 23. I don't remember any of my skills. I don't remember who I was bringing with me in the field. I don't remember any of that stuff. And hopping back into that was kind of like jumping into the deep end. And within a couple of minutes, I'm like, I don't know if I almost feel like I'd have to play the whole thing again. And as soon as I thought that, I was like, I can't do that to myself.
Yeah, you see, what I did in that situation was, well, so one, when I went back into, like, my main party in the original game consisted of myself, a random character, Cassandra, and Solus.
Okay.
Uh, s- Either Solus or Dorian. I really like Dorian, but I usually found Solus to be a more effective combatant.
Yeah.
So starting the DLC was just like, I can't use half the guys I'm used to using.
Yeah, like my
Um,
party is not here anymore.
but little did I know, you can just go talk to Cassandra and she will rejoin you.
Oh, nice.
So
That's
one,
a good change for them to put in.
that was super nice. Like that, I I think I was a couple hours into the Jaws of Hakan before that happened.
Oh,
Uh,
that makes I got a different ending. So
mm.
Cassandra was with me. That's interesting. I'm surprised they I'm surprised they stuck with that instead of like firing up the DLC and it's like get the gang back together. Hi guys, I'm here.
Well, you literally go up to her. I don't know the game. I guess the game's been out over a year. We can do
Yeah, I
the
guess
minor
spoiler alert if you
spoiler
haven't
of the
finished it
Divine.
yet.
Yeah, so I at the end of the game you can make either Cassandra or one of the other characters the Divine,
Yeah, there's
and
three options if I remember.
yeah, Cassandra, Vivian, and
The spy lady.
Liliana, right?
Yeah.
And I went with Cassandra. Like I almost went with Liliana, but Liliana is the lover of my Dragon Age 1 character, and I'm a horrible person, and I'm sentencing her to a fate with that, with my warden.
Ah,
So she doesn't have time to be no freaking great
I actually
device.
picked her in mine, and that turned out to be a pretty cool ending. I think she turned out to be a little bit softer in that position than I was expecting her to be.
She sounded like she was just going to burn down all the institutions,
Yeah,
and
my spies are just gonna kill everybody.
yeah. But so with Cassandra, it's you literally go back to the Inquisition-based Skyhold, and she's out on the field, and you talk to her and ask her about the Divine, and then you're like, "Do you want to go kill stuff with me?" And she's like, "Oh, I would love to get out of this
Thank
stupid
God.
outfit." So that's their very loose story reason for her tagging along.
Right.
But so like I played the Descent too. That's another skippable one, unfortunately. And the Descent is one that really got my hopes up at first too.
Yeah, me too.
I like the prospects of the deep roads because something terrible always happens. There's always really fascinating lore down there.
You always
Uh,
find some ancient buried horror that you're not supposed to find.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and they just like the Descent. It really screams as something like that they started on and then it was going to get canceled or something and they just said, well, we can put it out half finished or just throw it away.
Put
Let's
a
put
bow
it
on it
out
and
half
ship it.
finished. Yeah. And it's not that it's glitchy, it's just like you go into the deep roads and you get a new war table for the deep roads.
Oh,
You have two sections to that war table too because they have the deep roads and they have this area past the deep roads.
hmm.
But there's only like three or four things to do on either side of the table.
Oh. Hmm.
So it really makes you wonder why they put it there in the first place.
Right.
As soon as you go into the deep roads, you immediately get a cutscene. You get meet two new characters, and one of them's a Legion of the Dead character, and the other is the Dwarven historian class of people, a shape
Shaper it?
shifter. Yeah, shaper.
Yeah.
So
Wow, I can't believe I know that.
that's pretty good.
That came into my brain and that pushed out somebody's birthday. Sorry, someone.
Uh, so like you meet those characters and they're kind of neat and you're going through and meeting these new things and halfway through the DLC um this isn't 100% accurate and this is very negative of me to say but basically the locusts from Gears of War show up. um
Okay.
you literally have like this race of underground people with guns
Oh, jeez.
that they're much shorter than the locusts. I mean,
Right.
they don't even have class equivalents. It was just like having them show up and pose with their guns was just like, ugh.
It's like, I've been through this before.
Yeah,
BioWare.
yeah. And like the further you go, the more like by the end of it, the end boss, without really spoiling what it is or what the story of that is. Basically, all your melee guys are gonna die within a few seconds on the end boss.
Oh, okay.
So literally, the strategy is to just keep a mage or an archer in the back and just shoot them to death.
Right.
And like I was reading forums and stuff on this because I was just like, I am not like this guy is shutting me down before I can even dent him. What am I supposed to do here?
Yeah.
And oh, it turns out cheese him is the official strategy.
RPGs.
But like, and then I went on to freaking Dragon Age Keep afterwards, and there's literally one decision for the Descent, which is, did you play the Descent?
Oh, jeez.
And it's they introduce some lore in it, but it is it's hard for me to criticize it without spoiling it. So I'll stay away from it. But let's just say that I think for what they were saying that lore is, doing it in a DLC that they did not do a very good job on was a huge disservice to it.
Yeah.
And they might bring it up again later, and I doubt a lot of people played the Descent, so maybe they'd have a new opportunity to present that information fresh again.
Yeah, it might be like some of the Dragon Age 1 and 2 DLC where they reference it later, but then a character come in and be like, "Remember that time we did this thing? Remember?" Because
Yeah.
if you don't, here's the explanation of that DLC pack.
Well, and that's Dragon Age DLC 's so weird because it always is doing that stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
the witch hunt one for Dragon Age 1 with Morrigan, where like at the end she's like, I have an alluvian. You want to walk with me through it? And
Yeah,
like that's the end of the DLC, and you don't hear about alluvians. And like, well, I guess they have a broken one in the second game, and then
that's
like,
true. But it plays a major part in Inquisition. Same with one of the DLC packs for 2, who turns out to be the bad dude in Inquisition. Like,
yeah,
it's just like, hey, remember this guy? We met him before. And I was like, we did in that one DLC. Right, weird.
that was a really good DLC.
It
But
was. 1 and 2
that
actually
was,
both had, more often than not, the DLC was pretty good.
yeah. I don't remember what the other DLC for. Oh, it was that Felicia Day DLC, wasn't it?
Yeah, that one was okay.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Got to fight a lot of dragons. That was
Yeah,
alright.
it's kind of a neat hunting thing.
Yeah.
And then well, not all the DLC for Dragon Age 1 was great, but Awakening was great.
Yep.
I mean, you can actually learn to like the mage in 2
Oh,
before
right.
you absolutely loathe him in 2.
Right. Before he makes everything terrible.
Yeah, and you get to meet Justice as a completely separate character from him. So,
Right.
but anyway, so then I turned on the Trespasser, and the Trespasser I don't think makes a good first impression because you've just gone through these really, for me, I'd just gone through these really bad DLCs where it just was Dragon Age throwing me something, and Trespasser opens up, and it just feels like this wannabe Mass Effect Citadel, the party scene, where
Oh,
you're
okay.
literally in an open party and just wandering around talking to people, which is kind of neat, but you feel like you didn't do anything to get here. The game just fast forwarded, right?
Right.
Um,
It's a reward without you having to do much.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but and they do some really weird like side things with the characters. The I don't know if I should spoil anything from it, but let's just say my character. Uh, so okay, picture this: my character shows up at the party. She's in a regal, Inquisition uniform, and is here to talk to some people. And then randomly runs into her lover, and then they go off, change clothes, get married, and then come back. Like
That makes sense.
it's it's such a weird, like it doesn't have good pacing at all. I don't think for those
Yeah.
character moments, even though a lot of the character moments are entertaining.
It almost feels like maybe that's what the whole DLC should have led up to. And like
Yeah,
that was the defining end moment, which was now let's go get hitched.
yeah, I think that would have been better. Like with the like I romance Sarah, so it makes sense that would be like a spontaneous random thing. It
Right.
just was the oh, you guys changed clothes. Now you're somewhere else. Now you're back.
Yeah. If
I
anybody's
guess
gonna
they were
elope, it's
waiting
gonna be
in that
Sarah.
meeting a long time for you. but
Yeah. Weird.
but anyway, the once the story kicks off in that DLC, it's a really good DLC.
Hmm.
You probably have an hour of wandering around talking to people before you get to that, but the and when I say it's a really good DLC, I more mean it in that the story in it is really strong. They keep that the carrot on the stick on it looks really good, and when you get there, it is good feeding. It has a ton of story left and right in it, and I don't know if I can comment on the story too much. Like there's obviously combat everywhere, but it's nowhere near like the rest of Dragon Age Inquisition. It is such a linear focused game.
Hmm.
There are literally like I think 3 extra rooms you can go in that have extra fights in them that'll get you an extra item.
Oh wow.
Um, and the ending of that DLC, I think okay, judging by BioWare's past behavior, the ending of that DLC won't matter, but from beating it, I don't see how it can't how it like it has to matter. Like the the things that happen at this DLC are huge. Like,
Is it like the last Mass Effect DLC where it's like, hey, we did this thing. Whoops, we actually blew up something that's super important. And at the beginning of the next game, I'm in trouble because of that thing that I did. Like, you didn't need to have played it, but
oh,
it's important enough. What was that last Mass Effect 2 one? The Arrival, I think? Where you, like, accidentally blow up a.
oh yeah,
You destroy something important, and at the beginning of 3, you're, like, going on trial for that bad
yeah,
thing that you accidentally did.
yeah. They'll totally, yeah. I mean, that's what they'd have to do. I
Mm.
mean, obviously, they're going to retire the Inquisitor character, I believe. I could be
Yeah,
wrong,
I think
but
they said that they weren't really tied to that individual character. Because the great part about Mass Effect is throughout these 3 games, you've been 3 individual characters, and there's a point where your Dragon Age 2 character comes back in Inquisition, and my Inquisitor or my guy from the first one can't come back because of what happened in the first one. Um, but I think it would be really interesting to see if they would continue this series with a new character each time. It it might be a little bit it might get a little bit old to be the chosen world savior each and every time.
yeah.
Um, but it would at least be it would make it seem more like Final Fantasy than what they did with Mass Effect.
You know, part of me, like I like that Dragon Age has that distinction from Mass Effect, but part of me also really wants like maybe in another game or two, they're just like, oh, and guess what? This game, all the characters in the party are your main characters from all the other games.
Yeah, like you have a 4 person party and it's all just it's the thing that that Darksiders seemed like it was going towards, where it's like it's gonna be 4 player multiplayer and you're all one of the 4 horsemen. And that would be I would play that Mass Effect game where it's like, and introducing the guy from Mass Effect 2, yeah, woo.
You mean Dragon Age?
Yeah, Dragon Age. Well, bring Rex in too. Like that's fine. We'll we'll do like what is it that 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 Sega DS game with all the different franchise characters in that strategy RPG. There's a second one coming out soon.
Oh,
Something cross zone.
yeah, that's it. Cross Zone.
Yeah,
Cross
something like that.
Cross
But
Zone.
if BioWare
Cro-
would do one of those, that'd be pretty great.
Project Cross Zone, I think is all it's called.
Yeah. We'd be like,
Like
and
I
introducing Hawk. Yeah.
Yeah, I have that first game. It was I don't know.
It was a thing.
Yeah, I played it a little bit, but I don't know. I think honestly, you should Boston. I think you should give Trespasser another chance. You can get through the whole DLC in I think about 5 or 6 hours.
That's not bad.
But like the again, it starts out with the socializing scene where you're just wandering around talking to people for a while, and then the dungeon scene is all with um, like the dungeon scene. The first time I saw it, I thought, "Oh, this is going to be a giant pain in the ass," but it turned out to be very linear.
Mm.
Um, so it won't be bad. Like there are a couple puzzles in there. I I had to cheat on one of them because I was like, I have no idea. This button is obviously doing something. It's not going to let me go back here. What do I need to do to make this happen? And
Yeah,
read
it's
up.
one of those things where it's like, I just don't want to figure this out right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's literally something I had to do something in the other room and race up to it is what it wound up being.
Ugh.
Which I didn't.
That's not one of Dragon Age's strengths.
Yeah, that's it. Only does that once, but it was just like that's well, oh, actually, it's a little bit more than that now that I'm thinking about it. But I don't want to give away what that area is.
Yeah.
But I think just because like the questions you want answered get answered in this DLC,
Hmm.
and I very much want to hear a spoiler discussion with Mina telling me what happened with her elf.
Okay. So it's wrapping up more than just that DLC. It's wrapping up your larger Inquisition story in certain parts.
Uh, wrapping up with raising more questions. How do I, man? I don't.
It's a standard Dragon Age ending where it's like, all right, well here's here's the bad guy, here's what he was doing, but wait, there's more, and it's like, oh, now I gotta wait for
Yeah,
the next game to figure out what the hell that was.
yeah. They very much set up something they're gonna. I don't see how they're not going to use that for the next game.
Mm.
So,
Well, it's
um,
like the end of Inquisition proper, where it's like, all right, that was pretty cool, and after the credits, what?
oh man, it's yeah. I'm like I liked it so much that after that I reinstalled Origins. And had I only made it through. The thing is like I reinstalled Origins and I thought I'm gonna go through all three of these games. I'm gonna freaking get this certain setup. Like
You carry it all
have
over.
I want to have a city elf in the beginning, but I want Morgan to have my child so I can see that demon baby in Inquisition.
Right.
And then I want to go through the Alluvian with Morgan and the Witch Hunt DLC, and then
Oh man.
like just had this laundry list of stuff. And I'm like, I'm gonna be an elf in the third one and romance freaking Solus and see what that's about.
Is that
Um,
a part of Dragon Age Keep, by the way, where like, can you actually pick a decision in Dragon Age Keep and say, how do I get to this? That would be a really great feature, if not.
that would be.
Because if
I
you could
don't.
say like, okay, I wanna craft this thing where, all right, I have this demon baby, but I'm this, and Hawk did this, but didn't do this. That would be Bioware.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, it has multiple world states you can set up in there.
that's true.
So you could theoretically just go through and pick all the decisions you wanted.
Yeah.
I'd never seen the City Elf Origin and wanted to see it. And there are other aspects of Dragon Age 1 that I kind of wanted to see again too. Um, but I only made it through the Origin and haven't really turned it on since.
Yeah.
Um, the man, that City Elf Origin is awesome. I was sad I really wanted to be the girl because I read about the difference between them. Because if you're the if you're the guy, you're getting married to an elf, and then humans come in and capture the elf, and you gotta go save her. But if you're the girl, then you're imprisoned, and you have to fight your way out. And that
Right.
sounds
I
amazing.
think that's the one I did as my first playthrough, and
Hmm.
that it was pretty cool.
Yeah. Um, but I don't know. I just got through that origin and then stopped playing. uh, I don't know if I'll go back or not. Like I kind of want to, just because I want to see the other options in those worlds.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll play through. Like, I even kind of want to play through two again. I just want to not do all the side quest stuff.
Right.
I'm just not sure if I have that type of self control.
Well, then 2 makes it so easy. Because there are so few locations in 2, and each location isn't super big, so going over here and doing that side quest looks really easy.
Yeah.
Oh man. But then
Well,
then unfortunately, as much as I enjoyed my time with 2, it's certainly not, I don't want to say it's not a good game because it functions. It's certainly not as strong as Dragon Age 1's strengths and Inquisition's strengths. It's kind of this middle thing that's just fine. All the dungeons are bad. You can't get
yeah.
away from that. But I don't know. I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was an abysmal experience. I will continue to defend that game. It's not an abysmal experience.
There are a lot of aspects I like about two. I just wish they had refocused it. I wish,
Yeah.
because I said it on here before. The game doesn't really actually give you a plot line until the end, and I wish the plot line for the game had been Hawk makes this city his home. It becomes like I wish they had made it all about like how do I put this? I wish they had made it about falling in love and helping Kirkwall the city.
Right.
And I didn't really feel like I feel like they were skirting around like that. Like they had all the elements there for that. They just needed to refocus the story around it. And I don't think they ever quite got there.
Yeah, because even
Uh,
that was part of what they were selling originally was, a new hero, is on the run and settles in this city that um, he or she is not only going to save, but also kind of run to a certain degree. And you never really got there in 2 until maybe the very, very end. Maybe.
Man, that whole third act I thought was pretty rough though,
Yeah.
because everyone kind of loses their minds in a way that just was not evident was going to happen.
Well, a lot of it feels like very thin Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah,
Where it's
I
like,
mean, you
this guy
literally
goes crazy. Whoa.
literally meet like there's an option of either the mage guy being the villain at the end or the not paladin, whatever they're called, Templar chick being the villain at the end. You literally meet them at the end of the second act.
Right. Like right before they turn.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think it has a lot of potential. I hope if BioWare ever makes a practice of remaking their games, I hope they refocus Dragon Age 2 into kind of a Dragon Age Kirkwall and make it kind of a love letter to the city and kind of experience it. Because like I just forgot the races. The Canary stuff in that I
Yeah.
thought was excellent. Like
Yeah.
I loved hearing about what they were like and interacting with their leaders
And they got enough time to kind of build themselves into another faction that actually did start to have, or actually could pose a threat to the city itself.
yeah.
Yeah.
Man, Dragon Age games are great.
Yeah. Go play them.
uh,
They're all good.
let's see. So I also played some more Shining Force on my phone. I don't know why I keep playing my phone version because the Game Boy Advance version I own is way better. Um, I'm really not very far in it. It's just a nice. I don't know. I play it and then I think, oh, I should go play what's that game series everyone loves on DS?
Uh,
Fire Emblem.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say
Shining.
Golden Sun.
I've never played a Golden Sun.
I never did either. I totally missed that series, and everybody really loves it. So,
Yeah.
one of these days.
Well, Fire Emblem's like a. Actually, maybe I should put it this way: Shining Force is a way dumbed down Fire Emblem.
Yeah, it's. I've always felt like most of the early Shining Force games they're really great, and I really love them, but they were very much hampered by the technology, and they always seemed like they were kind of reaching for a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I own all these Fire Emblem games I haven't played. I probably should try one of those out one of these days.
Do you have the previous 3DS one, not the one that just came out?
No.
Oh, okay. That'd be the one
I've-
I recommend.
I have one or two of the DS ones. I've beaten the GameCube one, and then I have the sequel to the GameCube one that I've never played, which makes no sense because I love the GameCube one and just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool because they took two of the kids from the GameCube one and made them grown-ups and made them kind of the stars of the game,
Oh, nice.
which is weird because they were very much like either B or C list characters in the first one. So I'm
Yeah.
eager to see what that's about, but I don't know. I don't know if that'll realistically ever happen. I played a bit of Persona Q, although for the life of me, I can't remember what I did in it.
He drew some maps. He went in some dungeons.
I finally realized where all the Street Pass stuff was going, and then realized that I couldn't afford either. I wasn't high enough level to summon the personas that other people had shared, or they just cost too much. So, let's see. I started playing a bunch of Mass Effect 3. That is still a really great game.
Yeah. I will
I
absolutely agree with that.
kind of just hit load, and I was in the middle of the Omega DLC.
Oh, nice.
And I think I liked it a little bit better this time through.
With a little distance.
Yeah, it really has nothing to do pretty much. Like, I guess you could say Cerberus did take over Omega, so it has that to do with the main game, but for the most part, it has no impact on any of the main story or any of that stuff. It's just this complete 6 to 8 hour side mission you can go do.
Yeah.
Um, and then I went and did the Kunar, not Kunari,
We're
uh,
getting our Mass Effect and our Dragon Age all mixed up today.
whatever Tali is.
Oh, I don't remember.
Well, Quarians, Quarians.
That
Yeah,
sounds right.
the Quarians and Geth. The I went and did the Quarians and Geth missions, which those things are surprisingly concise. Like
Hmm.
I didn't realize because it's literally just kind of 3 missions long, and you can complete each mission in half an hour to an hour. Um, it's pretty quick, pretty straightforward. Unfortunately, I messed up because I forgot how Mass Effect worked, and at the end of those, you have this moment where uh, whatever Geth character that you're with, which is probably Legion unless you're a monster. Um, you have Legion like trying to upload individuality to the Geth, and you have Tali freaking out over the side, and the Starfleet, the Quarian Starfleet, isn't standing down, and then they present you with a set of decisions, and they're like, there's like a Paragon decision that says rally fleet, and I looked at that and thought, well, no, I don't want their fleet to kill them. I'm not gonna
Right.
rally them. And so then I clicked one of the normal ones of telling the fleet to stand down, and then freaking the Geth uploaded and it completely obliterated the Quarians.
Oh no. That's not what I wanted either.
So then I reloaded and did the rally fleet, and that was Shepard telling the fleet not to attack,
Oh,
which, come on.
yeah. That
Can we get away from the not putting what you're actually going to say, like in the conversations? Like, why do video game makers think that's a good idea?
it should just say tell fleet to stand down.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
Rally fleet does not mean that to me.
No.
But anyway, so that worked out, and the too good to be true Corey and Geth ending happened. So,
Yeah.
and I haven't gone back in since, and I've been meaning to, but I'm kind of thinking that means I'm about at the point where I need to do the Citadel, which I very much want to stream that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Like, how much do you want to invest at this time
Yeah,
to play more Mass Effect 3?
yeah. Like it's a really good game, but I don't know. I do want to see because I haven't had Garrus propose to me yet, and that is the one thing I really want to see out of my female playthrough.
Yeah.
So then I started. I guess I've just been playing old games lately. I played a bit of Morrowind, and I have forgotten how to do anything in that game.
Is Morrowind really a comfort food game for you?
It is. That's a hard question to answer because I never remember how to play it because
Okay.
its game mechanics are crazy. It would be if I remembered the game mechanics every time because I love the world of Morrowind. I love the factions in Morrowind. I love the storytelling in Morrowind. Morrowind is one of my best gaming experiences of all time, I think.
Yeah.
But it is incredibly hard to go back to. The like right out the gate, if you're using keyboard and mouse controls, guess what? Your right mouse button, like the way they designed it is you press one button and that brings up all of your menus at once.
Oh, jeez.
Like so you're confronted with your inventory, your spell list, your stats, your map. Like all of that's on one screen and you can rearrange it how you want, but it's very disorienting. You can like there are spells to fly in that game. The game does not start you with the ability to fast travel. It's, in my opinion, it's a bit of a misnomer to say that there's no fast travel in that game because there is. You just don't start with access to it, and it's done through the world of the game instead of just being an arbitrary game mechanic. So you go to a town, they will have a boat there that can take you somewhere. You pay them, and then they'll take you to another dock halfway across the map. There will be a giant creature you can ride to another city. There are spells where you can set a mark somewhere in the world and then teleport to that mark.
So it's more like World of Warcraft than it is clicking on a point and saying, I'm just going to fast travel there.
I have never played World of Warcraft, so I
Oh.
can't answer that.
Well, WoW did very similar things where it's like, oh, you need to get to another capital city. Well, go down to the docks and hop on this boat that comes every couple minutes and it'll take you over. Or like ride a griffin to get from one town to the other and it flies you right over.
Well, it's a little less like that. Actually, reminds me of GTA for some reason, even though I've barely played those. But
Oh, yeah.
but you don't actually have to wait for anything. But other than that, it's what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I love that world. I love the concept of a royal house of mages where you literally can't get to their front door if you can't fly.
It seems very appropriate.
Yeah, and just like all of the factions just have so much personality like that in Morrowind, and just like the game and environment does too, because the landscape is so alien to anything, because they don't. It's not really even based on Earth. You have these giant mushroom trees everywhere, and then
That's the mushroom one, yeah.
you have like, like the whole central area of the map is a giant mountain volcano that has ash storms constantly, and it's just such a very different game. Like a lot of the armor styles are very different, and I forgot that like I saw this brought up, I think during the Skyrim times, and I saw someone post and thought, no, there's no way that's true, but it still is. It's the Dark Elves have slavery as legal for like 3 of the races out of the 5 or 6
geez.
that are available.
Come on, Dark Elves.
Yeah, it's messed up.
Yeah.
There's no slave owning mechanic in the game, if anyone's mind.
Oh, thank goodness.
That is not a. This is nowhere near as complicated as newer games, but it's still complicated because its systems are just so weird. You have to get your spell hands out to cast a spell. I don't know if there's a block button because I haven't found it yet.
Yeah.
But it's a neat game. I don't know that I'll play it for too much longer, but I always wish I could go through and re-experience that game again.
Yeah.
Especially since you go through this whole quest to become the Neverine, and like in Oblivion and in Skyrim, you will occasionally encounter dark elves who, when they get startled, they'll go, "Buy the Neverine."
Yeah.
Like, hey, I knew that person.
Hey, that was me.
But yeah, I love that game. I hope Skywind, the fan project remake of it's really good, because I would like to play Morrowind in that engine. I just hope they somehow add the powers of flight to it.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I played some Warframe.
We actually talked about this in the pre-show.
Yeah, basically, if we hadn't missed last week, there would not have been new Warframe content to talk about.
See, that's what would happen. We miss 1 week, and then they say, "Oh, right, we were going to put out that new stuff."
Yeah. So the new Warframe content, though, isn't like hugely fast. It's mostly a big graphical update. They redid a lot of lighting and textures and how a lot of fabrics and things flowed.
Oh, nice.
And it's very, very pretty now. But it was like a 4 gig download to the patch. They added some more subtlety kind of immersion effects where, like, normally in Warframe, you're hanging out in your spaceship and you can see the planet that you went to last through your front screen. Well, now if you're in a party, you can see like the spaceships like on the sides.
Oh,
And
cool.
when you leave the party, you will hear them leave. And I always forget to directly look and admire them like when they're there. I just always remember when they leave, and I'm like, oh crap, come back.
Show me your cool spaceship.
I'm trying to think. They added a new warframe called Inaros. The quest to get Inaros is in terms of it's really not very. It's pretty easy for the most part. You basically run one mission. It gives you an urn, and then you got to go kill a certain amount of the enemy type to fill up the urn, and then you get a piece of the warframe, and then you can go get a new urn to collect stuff. And it took me maybe an hour or two to get all his parts. Um, Inaros wound up being one of my favorite frames, though, because his powers are just like they're balanced in a really, really cool way. In that he has like his starter power is he kind of does this blinding and I can't remember. He does some other type of negative effect to just kind of the crowd. One of his powers, he summons the sand stuff that grabs an enemy that will gradually kill them, or you can suck them towards you and start. It says devouring them, but he doesn't have a mouth, so I don't.
Just like
You know,
spiritually devouring.
yeah, it's you're refilling your health, and then if you fully devour them, they will come back as a sand clone of themselves and start attacking things for
Oh
you.
wow.
His third power, he turns into kind of a sand tornado that kind of throws everyone around. Um, his fourth power, it seems like a lot of people like his fourth power because it creates like an extra armor around him that can explode off, but I never use it. Uh, the really, really cool thing about him is he can bring himself back to life. Because normally in Warframe, when you run out of life, you're knocked down, and then there's a timer that's running for someone to go over and resurrect you.
Hmm.
Well, because Inaros can devour people when you get knocked down, one, he goes into a sarcophagus,
Nice.
just this giant standing sarcophagus. And two, you can start devouring them and bring yourself back, like if
Oh
there are
wow.
enemies around you. And he's just, I don't want to say he's the tankiest because I'd probably be wrong, but I I have not died with him hardly at all. Like I say die. I have not been knocked in sarcophagus mode hardly at all. Like he has
Right.
incredibly high health. He has no shields, but he has a lot of armor. He's just a lot of fun to play, and he's really weird looking.
Yeah.
But I think that's about all I got on Warframe and gaming in general. So Boston.
All right. I started the Bravely Second demo, which is titled the Three Cavaliers, something like that. The thing that I like about the Bravely Default and the Bravely Second demo is it features content that isn't in the actual game. What you're doing in the Bravely Default demo and what you're doing in the Bravely Second demo are almost side story things or like prequel stuff for the game. So it's kind of nice that you're not playing through content that you're going to have to play through again in the main game. That way I don't get to that point and I'm just like, oh god, this again. Oh.
Mm.
The one downside is while it gives you a really good view of what you're going to be doing in Bravely Second, the missions that are in the demo are almost all of them are going to be fetch quests. Either go out and get this thing, or go out and kill 6 imps, and then come back and I'll give you some potions or stuff like that. So that's kind of a bummer. They're doing the same thing they did with Bravely Default, which is if you finish a set of quests or you finish all of the quests, you get bonuses that you can then transfer into the full game. So you'll get like potion sets, you'll get weapons and armor that'll help you at the beginning of the game. You'll get extra villagers to help rebuild the moon in this second game. For some reason, you're rebuilding the moon. I feel like maybe I'm missing something, but
Is this a? These games aren't sci-fi, are they?
No,
A little like Final Fantasy sci-fi.
that might be a spoiler.
Oh, okay,
There
okay.
are at the end of the first one, there were sudden sci-fi elements that I really enjoyed. I I'm not entirely sure what's going on in this game because a character presents themselves to you at the beginning of the demo, and it's like, I came from the moon naturally, and everyone's like, oh, right, okay, moving on. And it's just like, are you gonna, hopefully you explain this in the full game when it comes out, I think next month, because that's seems like something that's vastly different from what the first game presented. Um, so this character says, "Oh, we got into a war and somebody destroyed a whole bunch of the moons. So if you can help me rebuild it, that'd be super." So you're basically the town rebuilding system that you had in the first one comes back as, "Hey, let's rebuild the moon," which inherently is way cooler. So I guess I'm not that upset about it. Um, it I think the thing that is interesting is that it's just Bravely Default again from the battle system. You get jobs by killing enemies that main characters that use that job. You get their job. It's called an asterisk in Bravely Default terms. And then when you get it, you level that up and you mix and match jobs. It's the same thing they've been doing since Final Fantasy 3, really. So on that side, it's nice because they didn't really need to mess with the Brave or default system. I hope that they extend it a little bit in the full game, because playing through another 40 or 50 hours with the same system will be fine, but I would like them to kind of continue to grow that system a little bit, to keep it a little bit more fresh. The one downside is that the same composer didn't come back. Was that Rova or something? Some strange name. The soundtrack for the first game is amazing, and it's probably one of my favorite RPG soundtracks. Apparently that composer was too busy for this one and couldn't come back, so there's somebody else doing the soundtrack. It sounds fine, but it kind of just sounds fine when the first game's soundtrack was outstanding. So that's kind of a bummer. Excuse me, I have something in my throat over here. So I'm excited to play it. The Japanese reviews for it seemed unkind, but Japanese RPG reviews can be unkind to really great games, so I never really put too much faith in that. It came out in Europe last month.
Was this the JRPG that was Bravely Default the one that was actually more popular in the US than Japan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it has a much larger Western audience than it did in Japan. For some reason, I'm not sure. It seems like if you like JRPGs, you would like Bravely Default, except for maybe the back half where it kind of poops the bed for a bunch. And it has a really great payoff that you have to go through a lot of BS to get to. I'm hoping there's nothing like that in Bravely Second, or if there is, it's more obvious to what you're doing, and there's maybe a better payoff. Because I'm not entirely sure I want to go through that again. Which is unfortunate, because the battle system with the Brave and the default system is really good. The mixing and mashing of jobs is actually really good. And I feel like they took what they were doing in Final Fantasy V and they extend it a little bit further and make it easier for you to experiment. One of the bad things I feel about Final Fantasy V, as much as I love it very dearly, is it doesn't encourage you to experiment in more than maybe 2 or 3 jobs. Because at that point, you can't really mix and match too many job abilities at that point. So once you find the 2 or 3 that are really good, you're kind of locked into it. What Bravely Default does is you have 5 slots for job skills alongside 2 main jobs you can have equipped at one time. So you can really mix and match a ton of stuff to be really strong. And it really encourages you to try out and try to master as many jobs as you can, which I think was a really smart choice to extend some of the job system to stuff they've done in the past. So I think it comes out on the 10th of April. I look like my camera makes me look like I'm in some sort of cyberpunk future over here. I think it comes out in April 10th here in the US, so I already have it pre-ordered, so we'll probably be talking about it not next month, but the month after that. But Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Um, the only other RPG I've been playing is I'm about 20 hours into Tales of Zestiria, which is the one of the last times I'm going to say that out loud. Um,
That bad?
no, it's just hard to say. It's Zestiria,
Oh,
like
okay, okay.
it's very chewy.
Read that the wrong way.
Yeah, sorry. I'm actually really enjoying this Tales game. Um, I I was talking on I think TVGP a couple weeks ago saying, all right, been playing all these open world games. Either it's an open world RPG a third person hack and slash or something. I just want a traditional JRPG. Like I just want to sit down and I want to play an RPG and just it's like sinking into a comfy couch. Whereas like I just want to settle into something for like 40 hours. Um, and people made some really great suggestions like Wasteland 2, which I have on PS4 and I haven't started yet. Um, Divinity Original Sin, the director's cut, which I have on PS4 and haven't gotten into it yet. And then Amazon let me know that a game was on sale on my wish list, and it was this Tales game for like $25. I was like, all right, I will play a Tales game. It will be anime as hell, and I will button mash my way through the normal difficulty, and some crazy predictive stuff will happen in the story, and man, that is this Tales game. It is anime as hell, and the game starts that you're, this really isn't a spoiler. If you haven't started Tales of Hysteria and you want to play it, I'm going to spoil the maybe first hour of it. You are this guy in this this really utopian society that lives high up on these mountains, and you don't realize that you're the only guy that can see all these seraphim around you, which are basically spirits, until somebody comes in from the outside and she lets you know that she can't see all of those, but you two will team up along with all of your seraphim buddies, and then you discover that you are the shepherd, which is this person that comes along once every 500 years to save the world. That's the first hour. So I mean, like they take all their tropes and they mush them together and they just front load that whole thing.
I am holding back the Mass Effect jokes on that.
Yeah, it's really it very much is. They reference Shepherd a lot, and I'm just like Shepherd. But the thing I feel like is the strength of Tales games is it's beautiful. It is this 1080p solid 30 frames. Just I wish it was 60. You can patch the PC version to be 60. It just looks really clean. The world maps that you're wandering around are big and bright, and it's one of those blue sky games where it's happy and it looks really great, and you know that you're going to go into a new town and there's going to be some sort of disaster that only you as the shepherd can resolve, and within the next 2 or 3 hours you're going to resolve it. And the battle system is the standard limbs system from every Tales game ever since they've been in 3D. And man, it just feels like a warm blanket, and not really in a bad way. It's not one of these things where it's like, ugh, this derivative garbage. It just feels like at this point when you pick up a Tales game and you pick up one of the better Tales games, it just feels good to play. You know, I'm comboing these skills and I'm unleashing all these arts, and in this one you can hit L1 to basically junction with your Seraphim and transform into this cool super anime long-haired Super Saiyan thing that just destroys every enemy on the battlefield. And it all sounds really dumb, but it feels really good to play. And I think that's one of the good things about the better Tales games is that you have played this game's story before. If you've ever played more than one JRPG, this is well trodden territory, but it's presented in such a way, and it controls and plays so well that I kind of don't care. And I'm kind of happy to have that comfort food experience but with a new game. So yeah, Tales of Zestiria it's another Tales game that is pretty solid. If you haven't played a Tales game, I might recommend Vesperia over this, because I feel like Vesperia does a better. Number one, it has a playable dog in your party. I cannot deny that. But I feel like Zestiria at points almost assumes you've played any of the last 5 Tales games. So it sort of says like, oh, remember how to chain arts together? And it's like, yeah, I mean, from the 360 maybe, but that was like 7 years ago. I feel like Vesperia did a much better job at tutorializing you on how to play a Tales game to kind of squeeze as much as you can out of the battle engine. And Zestiria doesn't do that as well. I think you can get to the tutorials by going deeper in the menus, but you can, on the normal difficulty, you can kind of button mash. It's a little too easy. Then the next difficulty above is a little too hard, because it figures you're a pro at the games. So I don't know. It's pretty good. It's a JRPG on the PS4. So what else? What else do I want?
Not a ton of those.
Yeah, right now not a lot of those. Usually your JRPG home is kind of your 3DS or your Vita at this point. So
Yep.
I'm kind of enjoying it at the very least for that. But that's all I've been playing this month. So let's take a break.
Cool.
I gotta close this curtain here. This future is blinding me. Oh, come on. Yeah. How long did that last? An hour. Not bad. There we go. That's better. I gotta turn on the light. Yeah. Well, that didn't help that much. Let's turn on another light. Yeah. That's okay.
You know, part of me really considered playing Jade Empire this month too, just to talk about all of BioWare.
Yeah, let's hit their last couple of
let's just talk about all the
supposed
BioWare
franchises. I'm surprised they didn't turn Jade Empire into a franchise. As much as I really disliked that first game, it really seemed all the way up until the very, very, very end. It really seemed like they were gonna leave that on a cliffhanger for the second one.
I never beat it. I always meant to go back and do that. I think I got to this. I got pretty close. I remember that, but
Yeah.
But I don't know. They just gave it away free like in December on Origin on PC.
Oh, right.
Which makes me think. Like I feel like BioWare has been talking about it occasionally in social media.
Yeah.
Which makes me suspect there might be something brewing, or they might be toying with the idea. But
and it's different from Obsidian talking about Alpha Protocol. Because every once in a while, people will be like, hey, man, wasn't Alpha Protocol good? And Obsidian will be like, yeah, it really was. See you later. And I feel like BioWare with Jade Empire is sort of like, boy, it'd be great to have another one of those, wouldn't it? Wink.
Well, and they don't have... Obsidian doesn't have Chris Aveline anymore, so...
And I don't think it has the rights to Alpha Protocol.
Oh,
I think Sega has that?
Damn, that's a bummer.
Yeah, let me look that up. I feel like I should know that with how much I carry the torch for that game.
Yeah. I'm curious about BioWare in general right now, because David Gator, the lead writer for Dragon Age, at least I think, if he wasn't the lead writer, then he was... I know he wrote Dorian, like all Dorian's parts, but I think he was also the lead writer. But he left BioWare and went to Beamdog to work on Baldur's Gate 3, possibly.
Yeah.
So... That's not officially announced or anything, but that's what everyone seems to be assuming.
Yeah. Yeah, Sega published that, so if I remember correctly, they have the license, the ownership of that. It's a bummer because they're not gonna do anything with it.
No.
Yeah.
No, they aren't.
Alrighty. Are you ready to finish this puppy off?
Yeah,
with some actual news stories this month.
Huge news section.
Yeah. I sat down the other day and I was like, I'm gonna get some news stories for PUP. If we're gonna delay this by a week, we're gonna come with a lot of news stories. We have 10 whole stories.
Yeah.
All right, let's get started in 3, 2, 1. Let's talk RPG releases for March 2016. Return to Papa LaCroix, a story of seasons fairy tale is out now on the 3DS. That might be how you pronounce it. I don't know. I'm so sorry.
I've never even heard of that.
It's been a series for a while, but I think the majority of the games haven't come out over here, or if they have, they've been under a different name, I think. Next game is The Witch and the 100 Knight Revival Edition, out now on the PS4. That came out on the PS3 a couple years ago, and they kind of cleaned it up and put a bunch of more content in it and slapped it on the PS4. So that game's supposed to be pretty interesting and do a lot of different stuff, but I have it on PS3 and never really played it, so maybe the PS4 version will grab me.
Don't they have kind of artwork like a Vanillaware type game going for that?
It has a similar style, yeah.
Okay.
Almost like a Disgaea style too.
Oh, more like Nipponichi. Okay.
Yeah. Fire Emblem Fates Revelation is out for the 3DS now. Actually, it came out on the 10th. This is the third path. One game has one path, the other one has the other one. This is kind of the neutral, right down the middle path. Apparently, this is the play it last path. For those of you that are interested in picking this up. So that's out now. If you've managed to beat both of the others by playing almost constantly, I guess.
Just took those 2 weeks off to get those 60-hour playthroughs done.
Yeah, exactly. And Earthbound is coming for the Super NES Virtual Console that was announced for the new Nintendo 3DS, not any of the old ones. Comes out on the 24th of March. Let's get into news stories here. Shin Megami Tensei 4 Final. They have come out and done some features on the DLC that's coming out. Musum, I think you put this in here.
I did.
So what really caught your fancy on this DLC they've announced?
The one, like the thing that I read that I flipped my lid over was that there's a quest where you will get to have the protagonists from the other Shin Megami Tensei games in it.
Yeah.
So including the Demi-Fiend from the third one, and I don't actually remember the ones from the first two, but that sounds amazing to me. They haven't announced a U.S. release date for this yet, but I mean, I don't think Atlas... I feel like Atlas releases all the Shin Megami Tensei stuff here now.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they'll stay consistent with that, but obviously there are like a dozen extra quests they've added to this. There's extra difficulty settings. There's a level cap increase, but the main characters were the ones I was excited about.
Yeah, that one seems super cool. And I know there's a lot of people saying like, "Oh man, why haven't they announced it yet? Like, is it coming out in the North?" Probably. These things take a long time to localize, though. So, Atlas makes a lot of money off of Shin Megami Tensei games. So I'm sure Final will come out, especially because everybody's saying, "Please bring out Final.
Yeah.
Please, Final looks so good."
Well, and Final came out, I think, in February in Japan. And I think I read on a forum that claimed it was selling pretty well. Like Atlas here, I mean, like they're only like, what, a 30-person company or something? Like they aren't
very
huge.
small, yeah.
So, and you got to figure they probably have their hands full with Persona 5 right now.
I would hope.
Yeah.
You're busy with Persona 5, right?
So, I mean, yeah, I would be surprised if we didn't get it. I mean, I don't know that Shin Megami Tensei 4 sold horribly well for them here, but I don't know that it sold poorly.
I think it did pretty well. I think a lot of their secondary games, they do small enough print runs that I think it shakes out okay in the end. And I always think we got Strange Journey here. Like, if we got anything, I would have never figured we got in Strange Journey here. So Final seems like it has pretty good chances of coming out over here.
Strange Journey's a pretty weird one to make it over.
Yeah. Speaking of Shin Megami Tensei games, the Nintendo Direct that came out in beginning of March, late February, SMT Cross Fire Emblem finally gets its English name, and it is Tokyo Mirage Sessions #FE, which is funny because it's the inverse of SMT. It is TMS,
Yeah.
which is pretty great.
Yeah.
I am genuinely surprised that this is coming out in North America because the reception in Japan was a resounding what? Because it is I don't think it has demon fusing. I don't remember, but it's very much hey, you're Japanese idol stars and you're saving the world through your magical singing powers.
And I don't think, like, I think all the summons are Fire Emblem characters or something like
I
that,
think
isn't it?
so. Yeah, it's so weird, and I think Atlas and Nintendo are making the right choice by not dubbing it here. They're just doing subtitles. I think
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are like, really? But I think the amount of money and time to record all English voice acting and then somehow make these songs in Japanese that are important to the plot and the gameplay fit into their English counterparts, that never works out.
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
I got it pre-ordered.
yeah, I do too. It's coming out in North America and Europe on June 24th. If you're in any way interested in this game, you should probably pre-order it because it took a long time for the pre-orders to come up.
Yeah.
This is going to be, I can almost guarantee this is going to be the only shipment we're going to get. And after that, it's going to be one of those games where it's like, oh, I didn't pick up Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and now it's $200 for the stupid Wii U.
Yeah.
So
And keep in mind, like, Nintendo they're still pretty bad about their digital online stuff. So
yep.
I don't, hopefully they release it in digital too, because I think that's the only way people will consistently be able to access it if it's a good game.
And it'll be really big, probably. So,
That's true.
I think everything I'm hearing from NeoGAF for people that imported and played the Japanese version is that it seems really crazy, but it's actually an incredible RPG. So I was going to buy it anyway because it's an Atlas game that seems insane. So that typically turns into a really good game. But God, if you're interested, go pick it up. That's our suggestion.
This is the entire reason I own a Wii U, is so I wouldn't miss whatever this game is.
Yeah, whatever the hell this thing is.
I am an SMT fanboy, so it happens.
We actually, I have a news story here for the Nintendo Direct for the Super NES Virtual Console games that are coming out. We actually just talked about that. I forgot I had that in releases. So, it's coming to the new Nintendo 3DS only, and Earthbound is coming out for that too. So if you want to play Earthbound laying down on your couch, you totally can.
Yeah.
They also talked about Dragon Quest VII for the 3DS coming sometime this year. I forgot they were talking about bringing that out over here. I could have sworn that came out on the PS1 here originally, but somebody had said something at some point that it hadn't. So I don't know anymore. But if you want to play a legitimately 100-hour game, you can play Dragon Quest VII. So if you want to do that to yourself. Also releasing this year on May 17th in North America and Europe, Valkyria Chronicles Remaster. I really liked that original game, and it's a shame that it came out on PS3 at a time that most people weren't really picking up PS3s or weird experimental tactics, third-person shooting Japanese RPGs, but man, if you're interested in this game, which you probably should be, it's only going to be $30. It's a hell of a game. I can't recommend it enough. I never finished it because I got to that famous mission that was way too hard, beat that, and said, well, that's the final boss for me. I'm good. So hopefully they rebalance that this time. But yeah, go pick that up. That's That's gonna be pretty good. Um, we talked a lot about Mass Effect at the first half of this show,
Yeah.
and EA has come out and said that Mass Effect Andromeda will not arrive in 2016. I think they talked 2 or 3 E3s ago and saying like, oh yeah, it's going to come out in late 2016. It should be fine. They are pushing it back just a little bit into early 2017. Sounds like it'll come out in the first calendar quarter of 2017. So
Yeah, that kind of bums me out. I am wrong. I've been telling everyone no, they've had 4 or 5 years. So it'll be 2016.
yeah,
No, they need that fifth year.
yeah, that's okay. Keep it in the oven for a little bit longer. I think. I
As
think
long as all the staff they just lost isn't a bad indicator.
Yeah, and I think I don't think we share this sentiment, but I think for a lot of people that heavily invested themselves in the Mass Effect trilogy, I think that Andromeda has a lot to prove, and I think there's a lot of goodwill that BioWare needs to build up for a lot of people after they were very upset about what the ending of Mass Effect 3 was. So,
Well, and in addition to that, like looking at EA's lineup for the year, like they have a ton of big budget games coming out
yep.
this year. And I could have totally seen like some business suit sitting down somewhere and saying, okay, which of these games is going to perform better in November? Okay, this one is, okay, Mass Effect, you're going to be our January, February game.
Yeah, you're going to be our March game when things are slow and people want to pick up an RPG. Because if you take Mass Effect Andromeda and Titanfall 2, one of those is probably going to be a little bit bigger than the other. At least launch weekend.
November's their big multiplayer push. I mean, they probably have some sort of Battlefield coming out this year too, don't they?
Probably, I think.
I don't.
That seems like a given.
Mirror's Edge is like all I'm seeing, like in terms
Yeah,
of
exactly.
whatever EA is releasing.
That's
Mirror's
another
Edge
one
and
they
Mass
have coming
Effect,
out. Yeah, that's a good point. Next news story, another Atlas news story. I should have put these next to each other, but bury the lead a bit. Atlas announces Etrian Odyssey 5 for the 3DS, titled The End of the Long Myth, out August 4th in Japan. It looks like an Etrian Odyssey game, and that makes me really excited.
They really bring out a lot of these things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I own 2 or 3 Etrian Odysseys, but I feel so far behind and like I need 1,000 hours to catch up.
Yeah.
But
like you just need to take a year or two off and just play straight RPGs the whole time.
I guess so. Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited about that. There's not a ton of details out there at the moment. But basically it looks like what they're saying is it's Etrian Odyssey 5. You know what this is already. So please be excited for it coming out in August. Fallout 4 is a game we haven't talked about for a little bit here. But at the beginning of February, Bethesda came out with their DLC plans for the game over the next couple months. First, if they have a pack called Automatron, which will retail for $10, and basically you hunt down robot parts, and you put together a robot that will be your companion and do robot stuff out in the wasteland with you.
That sounds awesome.
So that seems okay. Then there's also the Wasteland Workshop, which is going to come out in April for $5. Sounds kind of like you. This is the one where you basically set up a fight club between monsters you capture. So it's sort of like Fallout 4 mini Pokemon.
Yeah, that sounds. I'll probably. Okay. Realistically, I've always skipped all the Fallout DLCs.
Mm-hmm.
And also, realistically, I have a mod right now that actually lets me build robots and take them with me into the wasteland.
Yeah.
But Automaton, I might pay money for. Wasteland Workshop, I probably will skip. Unless someone just tells me there's like some awesome, like, you breed these death claws together and then they gain laser eyes or something.
I would spend $5 on that, yeah.
Yeah. Like if it's some weird, crazy, like, Pokemon Persona type thing where they're gaining new skills and you can take them with you, then I
Right.
might be down.
That would
But
be pretty cool.
if it's literally just capture monsters and make them fight, I'm not interested.
Yeah. And May sees the release of Far Harbor for $25, which gives you a new case with Nick Valentine that leads you on a search for a young woman and a secret colony of synths. And it seems like it's one of those Fallout DLCs that worked pretty well for 3, which is, hey, we're going to take you from where you are and go to an entirely different area. And this one's off the coast of Maine. So that sounds pretty cool. The big hullabaloo back in February was that they were raising the price of the the season pass, but that already happened. So either you bought it or you didn't. Not much to rabble rouse about now.
I didn't buy it.
I didn't either. I figured I wasn't super hot on Fallout 4 anyway, so
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't to spend that much money. I wouldn't come back enough to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
Next news story here: Activision confirms Destiny sequel delay to 2017. Expects a 2016 expansion. This is sort of unfortunate timing for Destiny because the groundswell seems to be pushing in the back on Bungie, saying, "Hey, where is any content at all?" The hope was, well, we're going to get a Destiny 2 sized thing in 2016. And Activision came out lately and said, no, we have to push that back to 2017. I'm sorry. It's going to be big, but you'll get that. They're saying in the first part of 2017. And it sounds like instead they're going to come out with some sort of DLC sized expansion in the back part of 2016.
Well, and I got to tell you, everything I'm hearing about the Division really makes me wonder if there's going to be any room for Destiny if the Division gets popular.
Right, because looking at what they're doing with the Division, their communication is very clear. It seems like the game they've designed has learned lessons from some of the missteps from Destiny. It's going to be pretty curious to see how or if those two games continue to feed off of each other, because it seems like there are things in the Division that maybe Bungie could learn lessons from in Destiny, and then kind of feeding back and forth some good ideas. But
Yeah, I mean, they're different enough games they could, but they're also similar enough in terms of multiplayer and time investment that
and the framework seems very similar. I haven't played the Division yet because I look at it and I say, okay, a game like that pulled me in for way too long with Destiny. Maybe I'll just avoid this one.
Yeah.
As good as it is.
I played one mission in the beta and I'm like, you know what? This is exactly like the Destiny beta for me.
Yeah.
Except more people running around in front of me, and it's not a sci-fi thing. Like, I like a lot of aspects about it, but I'm probably never going to play this again. So
Yeah. Last news story here, we have Xseed is just killing it with these Legend of Heroes games. They announced Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky the Third will see a Western release on PC and seemingly PC only in 2017. So that basically means they are just knocking these things out, which is crazy because each one of these games has hundreds upon hundreds of pages worth of text in them. And they're also still talking about Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 2, which will launch this fall for PS3 and Vita. That's nuts. We've gone for so long without any of these games, and now we have almost all of them. So I think at this point, everybody seems to agree that Trails in the Sky, first chapter and second chapter are both really good. It sounds like if the third one is going to come out on PC only, maybe that pushes people closer to just buying the first two on Steam, because they came out. First one came out for PSP, and the second one came out for PSP, I think, but you can play both of them on Vita. But if you can carry over any sort of save file stuff, maybe you just buy
Mm,
them on Steam. They're on sale every once in a while for Steam sales, so
yeah.
that never hurts. All right, that's all of our news stories. So let's move over here to tweets. Gibbionator writes in and says, I'm looking for Japanese only RPGs with English patches for my Retron 5. Got any good suggestions? I already have Mother 3. The one that people always seem to kind of shake their fist about is the Super NES game Seiken Densetsu 3, which here would have been Secret of Mana 2. Secret of Mana, sorry. That seems to be the one that people are like, oh, if it only came out over here. Oh, it's so good. I have never gotten around to playing it, but that seems to be one of the biggest examples.
I played the intro to that game. Like it's almost Dragon Age Origins like with its like 4 to 6 characters that have a completely different origin to choose from kind
Oh,
of thing.
interesting.
I don't think any like it's been at least a decade since I played it, so I may be misspeaking, but I
Yeah,
don't think any of the origins are more than 20 minutes long or so. But it seemed like a really cool game.
yeah.
Basically, all the Super Nintendo RPGs that didn't come out here, you should just buy and get patches for those.
Yeah,
Like,
and mostly because, if you're looking at Super Famicom games on eBay, you can get stuff for incredibly cheap. You can look at a copy of Final Fantasy V for Super Famicom. You can buy one that's in box with everything for about $20.
that's a good point. Ogre Battle, which is one of my favorite games of all time,
Yeah,
is incredibly expensive to get, but Ogre Battle originally released on Super Famicom and Super Nintendo. So I'm sure you could find a cheap copy of it for Super Famicom.
yeah.
Well, at least cheaper, not the $300 that the American version would cost. But
I'm trying to think of games that I would really recommend from that era. Yeah, here you go. Ogre Battle: The March of the Black Queen, Super Famicom, complete in the box is $50.
oh man,
So
yeah.
that's nothing,
And I guarantee if you looked up the English version, it would be hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. Here's one for 30, here's one for 15. It's you pop that in your Retron 5, someone probably has a translation. I feel like if you go past the Super NES, which I know the Retron 5 doesn't. I think it does Game Boy Advance. I'm assuming because he's talking about Mother 3. Anything past the Super NES era, the majority of stuff already came out, with the one glaring exception of Mother 3. There's a lot of weird stuff that Square put out on Super NES, like they got Live a Live or Live Alive. I never know how to pronounce that. They got Bahamut Lagoon. They got that Rudra's Treasure game. There's all these really weird games that Live a Live is really weird because it does something where you're picking 7 different stories. It's almost like the predecessor to the Saga games that came out on the original PlayStation. Not something I would say you'd really need to rush out and play, but there's a lot of, I guess, interesting experiments that Square put on the Super NES. But beyond that, not a lot of stuff that maybe I would necessarily recommend. I don't know about you, Musim.
Yeah, I don't. A lot of the good ones that I would want to play made it out over here. I think if I had that situation, I might look into getting some of the Shimigami Tensei games that came out for Super Nintendo.
Yeah, like
Um,
I think there was a remake of SMT 1 and 2 on the Super NES. Like they bundled the
yeah,
two together and put them out. That would be pretty. That would actually be a pretty good recommendation. I bet it's super cheap, and I know somebody has translated them, and I bet that's a pretty fun way of experiencing the original SMT
yeah,
games.
but like at the same time, like those games are old.
Yeah,
Like,
those games are old and going to be hard to get into.
yeah, I would have an FAQ with me if I did that. Like
Yeah,
that would be a scholarly like thing that I did for myself just to see what it's like and because I like in the Nocturne strategy guide that I have, a bunch of interviews and kind of background on the game series, and they kind of talk about all the weird mystery stuff and kind of the fiends, which was the big thing in 1 and 2, because there was only a 1 in 255 chance of one of the fiends showing up in certain locations. So there were all these rumors about like people running into one of these monsters and getting party wiped out of nowhere.
Right.
And then trying to get them to pop again just to get their rewards. And in Shin Megami Tensei 3 and onward, the fiends are a regular part of the game and aren't as rare. But just to see some of that kind of rare stuff firsthand, I think I would love. But
Yeah.
honestly, it may not even be a bad idea to look into getting like some of the old SNES games that just cost too much to get, and the US versions, and just get a patch for the Japanese one, and
Yeah.
you have a cheap way to play it. I know I would probably go through the Quintet games like
Oh yeah.
ActRaiser and Soul Blazer and Illusion of Gaia and Robotech, and I'm
Yeah,
on
they
their
put out so
Wikipedia
many
page.
good games on Super NES. And I feel badly because we're mostly focusing on Super NES, and I feel like we're ignoring the Genesis a little bit. But I, other than the games that came out over here, the Genesis wasn't, as far as I know, wasn't a super huge RPG powerhouse, except for the stuff that came out. We got the Phantasy Star games. We got, the Legend of Oasis, I think that was that one. We got a pretty good amount of
Yeah.
Genesis stuff out here. Just the Super NES that we kind of missed out on a lot of stuff on.
Well, and like the Genesis RPGs, well, and that's the other thing. Is like we didn't really miss out on Genesis RPGs necessarily. We missed out on Game Gear RPGs,
Yeah,
in my
exactly. Like
opinion.
Saturn RPGs.
Yeah,
We didn't get
like
the second half of that Shining Force game.
well, that's entirely where I was going with all the Shining Force stuff. Like getting those later scenarios for Shining Force 3, and they hear Shining Force Japanese only games sound freaking awesome because
Yep.
they're a bridge between Shining Force 1 and 2, where you're like the son of the main character from the first one, and like all this bad stuff has happened to the previous characters, and it really sounds cool, like the
That does
story
sound pretty
for
cool.
it. But it's I might be able to find a ROM or something that someone translated out of it, but I don't know that Shining Force is that popular to warrant that,
Yeah. I'm sure
fortunately.
somebody has translated it at some point, but it might not be the most polished as something like a Final Fantasy translation or a Square
Yeah.
translation maybe. Yeah. Yeah, so there you go. You got a bunch of stuff to start hit eBay. Start hunting some stuff down there. We have an email here from Michael S. He says, "Hey guys, if there was a law passed against people spoiling a game's storyline, which games do you think would qualify to make this law active? In other words, which games do you think should never be spoiled no matter how old it is and need to be played for yourself? Have you ever broken this unwritten law outside this show?" RPGs that you don't want to get the story spoiled.
I get spoilery on most RPGs that have been out a few years. I don't think I would spoil Chrono Trigger too excessively for anyone.
That was the one that was kind of bubbling up in my brain, not because the story it's telling is super amazing, even though Chrono Trigger is one of my favorite games of all time. It's just it pulls some stuff that most games today don't even do, and it
Yeah,
handles it really well. Um,
time travel stuff in that game is real good.
I should play Chrono Trigger again.
I have been thinking about that the last day, and
Man, I feel like this is the Deus Ex law, where every time someone mentions Deus Ex, someone installs it and plays through it again.
yeah, yeah. And Chrono Trigger's so easy because your characters are already like, you know, close to whatever max level is or close to it. You
Yeah,
just
and if you're playing it for the first time, Chrono Trigger is like 20 hours. It's not the world's longest JRPG.
Hmm.
Oh man.
I already
Yeah.
forgot what the question was now that we started talking
What
about
what
Chrono
games
Trigger.
should what RPG should never be spoiled?
Okay.
I don't. It's sort of tough with. I feel like it's tough with JRPGs because there's such a time investment that, except for maybe Final Fantasy VII, the majority of people really respect the time you have to put into JRPGs, and or if you're trying to spoil something, it's hard to spoil it without having played that 40, 50 hours you already played. Like it,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
you could, I mean, Final Fantasy VII notwithstanding, it's kind of hard to spoil. You know, you might be able to spoil Mass Effect 3 or something for someone and say like, "Oh, this character totally dies in the end." And you're like, "No, I'm playing 1 and I like that guy." But beyond that, if you look at at the Final Fantasy series, most of those aren't tied together at all. I'm playing one of the Tales games. Virtually none of those are sequels to each other, so it sort of gets hard to spoil each one of those because it's not like this guy from you're finding out that this guy from a Tales game that came out 10 years ago is going to get killed in this one.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know that I have any. Like, there are certain aspects I think of each game that I wouldn't want to spoil for anyone. I wouldn't. I wouldn't spoil the character death in Persona 3 for someone.
Sure, yeah.
But like at the same time, that's also not what I think about when I think of Persona 3. So
Right.
that's an emotional moment, but it's also not why I'm trying to sell someone on Persona 3.
And the thing we talked about, because he wrote into TVGP and originally and had me forward it on to PUP. The sort of the benchmark we used in TVGP was BioShock, where it's like the the real crux and where that game turns on itself and sort of starts folding in on itself is the spoilery thing that if you know beforehand will sort of ruin part of that game. And that's the sort of thing I was trying to think of, like what would be that sort of experience in an RPG or in a JRPG, and I kind of can't think of one.
I mean, it'd really be closest thing I can think of is Final Fantasy VI.
Oh
with
yeah,
the
maybe
big
the
world
second
thing.
half of that game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that was spoiled for me before I even touched the game, and I
yeah,
feel like every time someone talks about loving the game, they bring that up, so that doesn't make me feel inclined to not mention it, even though I'm kind of dodging saying it right now.
yeah. The conversation around that game, almost as much as it is on 7, is the impact of a really big spoilery thing, or multiple spoilery things.
Yeah, and just back to Chrono Trigger, I know there are certain character arcs I would not spoil for someone in
Mm-hmm.
that game. I wouldn't spoil anything about Magus to someone,
Yeah,
um, unless I was just making a crude joke
right.
or something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I guess our biggest answer would be Chrono Trigger. As
yeah,
strange as that is for such an old game, that I feel like there's still an opportunity for people if they haven't played it yet. I feel like it still holds up
yeah,
to a large degree, and you can still go in and be surprised at the twists and turns that game holds.
and it's got a dozen endings, so a lot of different things can happen. So
Yeah, and a lot of those endings are really good.
yeah,
Some of them are kind of silly, which is great.
especially in that DS version.
Yeah, I was just about to say because someone's probably is probably listening and saying like, "Well, I haven't played Chrono Trigger. Which one should I play?" Your first priority is the DS one. It's super easy to find, and it still works in your 3DS. That's kind of the best experience you're gonna get. It's a little bit cleaned up, has a little bit more content. Your second one should be the Super NES one, and then I think third is sort of a fight between the bad PlayStation 1 version and the bad mobile version, the iOS and Android one. iOS and Android one's fine. It just they did that stuff with changing how it looks that I just hate.
So this is crazy to me. Chrono Trigger on DS is like $23 on Amazon right now. So
Great. That's a great price
yeah,
for a game that
that is crazy.
you can experience for the first time.
I thought for sure that game would shoot up in price because Square just consistently doesn't do something with, you know, a game that is regularly called one of the best games ever made.
I wonder if they're still occasionally pushing out small print runs of that. That'd be
You know,
interesting.
that would be.
Yeah.
Uh,
And our last email here is from the Floydage. He says, "Why haven't you played Xenoblade Chronicles X yet? Or Cross, sorry. I'm 70 hours in and still loving it. Seriously, though, it's super fun. Y'all should play it." Time?
I played a little bit. Like I kind of my experience was here's the thing. Every game that came out last year that I bought was a giant open world endless game.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time I popped in Xenoblade Chronicles X and played a little bit, I was just like, I just want to finish something.
It's that 2015 open world fatigue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've gone and I've finished some, some much smaller games now that aren't RPGs, and I'm feeling like I'm about ready to take on that 60-hour commitment again. I just haven't quite been there yet because I only beat 6 games last year.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
100-hour game is asking for a lot.
in this year, I have already beat 6 games. Like,
Nice.
just because I'm picking my battles, I'm like, okay, I'll play through Firewatch, I'll play through Soma, I'll play through, these, more concise, definitive experiences.
Yeah. And this game for me was in the running when I was trying to figure out what RPG I was gonna play, and Tales of Zestiria won over Xenoblade Chronicles because it isn't an open world. It has large fields, but it's not the same as Chronicles is. And I definitely want to get to it someday because everybody that's playing it says it's amazing, and I really liked the first one. And of course, I love the Xenogears, Xenogears and the other ones. But it's really the time and just open world fatigue. I feel like after The Witcher 3, I was sort of like, all right, that was a really great experience. It was a really good open world. I got to be done with those for a little bit. So, as much as I know it's great and I want to play it, I'm tired. But that's all of our emails and tweets. Thank you very much, everyone, for writing in. You can find us at pickingupthepixels.com. Tweet us at pickingupPixels, no the in there. Email us fans@pickingupthepixels.com. You can tweet us or email us at any point during the month. I just save them for the next episode, so your stuff won't get lost. And everything else everywhere you can find the show is on the right-hand side of the webpage. Musum, where can we find you?
You can find me at my other podcast, Carousel Podcast, on all the things. And you can buy my music at musum.bandcamp.com.
And you can find my other show at tvgp.tv. Go listen to that video game podcast. I feel like there probably aren't very many people that are listening to this show that aren't listening to TVGP. If you are, TVGP is basically this, but it comes out more often and we talk about more games. So, and you can find my YouTube and Twitch streaming stuff at bostonhannon.com. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Musum, for joining me yet again.
Pleasure as always.
And our adventure continues next month. That was a much longer second segment than we normally have.
That's yeah, if Mina had been here, this would be like a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah, that'd be a real marathon. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for watching live or watching on YouTube. If you're watching live, thank you for joining us and chatting with us. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and comment. They both help out a ton. And we'll see you all next month. Bye.
Bye.